Believe in Bigfoot? Dogman? Any cryptid? Are you skeptical?
Curious about the supernatural, conspiracy theories, the unknown? Then come join us as we explore facts, tall tales, and encounters on Creatures and Curiosities.
Hello and welcome to Creatures and Curiosities. I'm David.
And I'm Jake.
And in this week's episode, we are going to be talking about the UFO that crashed in Brazil.
Yeah.
This one's clearly a cover-up.
There's no doubt about it.
There's just no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And before we get into it, how's your week been?
It's been good. Busy. One of the kids is getting sick, so that's always fun. But hopefully it's just a cold that passes through. It's kind of what it seems like.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody will get it, and we'll all have some little cold for a couple of days.
Of course.
That's how it goes.
And you just had a birthday.
Yep. Yeah.
Got to take you out to a nice birthday dinner.
It was phenomenal, too.
Yeah, that was enjoyable.
Walleye, fish and chips. Oh, man.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
I think walleye's got to be the best freshwater fish there is to eat.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it is.
I love seafood, but when it comes out of a lake, the walleye's got it beat.
Yeah, I love it. What about you? How have you been?
Well, aside from the stroke that I had.
Yeah, besides that. Besides trying to die on us.
Yeah. I
Which
guess,
is unacceptable.
Well,
you got to knock that off.
What? Every now and then you've had enough. And my brain apparently wanted to give out. I'm trying to watch the hockey game.
Yeah.
Right? I think it was the U.S. game. It wasn't the Canadian-U.S. Game, but it was the one on Sunday. And I don't know, my vision just started blurring on me. And then I got up, walked out to the kitchen like a complete idiot, had no idea why I was out there.
Yep.
And Grace was like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And I had no idea, and I couldn't really talk to her. And then I got the word salad thing where you think you're saying something, but you're really just throwing out words that have no significance whatsoever.
Like our politicians. You sound like one.
Exactly. And then she was like, "Oh no, something's going on." So yeah, she called for help. And off I go in the ambulance, and turned out I had a mild stroke. So, but I'm good, and went through a battery of tests, and now I'm wearing heart monitors, and nothing's stopping us from podcasting.
Nope. Can't keep us down. There's no way.
Yeah, but aside from health issues that nothing I could do anything about, what do you think about all this? Speaking of UFOs. Ex-President Barack Obama talking about the aliens that are on Earth, and then Trump came out and said, well, he gave up classified information that he shouldn't have, and maybe I'll help him out and release all the information.
It's a distraction.
It's a distraction.
It's a distraction.
Right? And so for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, and I hate to get into this before we even get into this Brazil story, because we don't have the answers either.
Right. But let's get into it.
But I don't believe personally in aliens. The Bible doesn't talk about it. Doesn't mean they don't exist. So I'll be the first one to say that. Just because it's not in Scripture does not mean they can't exist. But I do read enough that talks about in the end days, there's going to be great deceptions. Look to the skies for those types of deceptions.
Exactly.
Well, in my opinion, I think it's the greatest way to cover up a potential rapture.
Yeah.
So some Christians believe in the rapture, some don't. Some believe that it's, pre-tribulation, some believe it's post-tribulation. Blah, blah, blah. Who cares? I don't want to get into all the detail of it, but let's just say there is a rapture. And the people that believe in Jesus as their Savior, they're taken off this earth without death. They never know death. They're taken off up into the sky, and they're just gone.
Yep.
And there's a million movies on, Left Behind. And
they're cheesy, but I love those movies.
Yeah. And so they've always tried to explain what are people going to think when all of a sudden there's just a vast amount of people disappear. Planes crashing because pilots are gone, cars crashing. And when you think about the potential scenarios of somebody that's in charge of a bunch of people that all of a sudden is just gone, and who's flying the plane or who's driving the bus or whatever.
Exactly.
A lot of people might perish just from that standpoint, right?
Yeah.
But what are you going to tell the rest of the world if your government, are you going to say, well, dang it, you guys were all wrong. You should have done this, this, and this, and then you would have been saved as well. But now you're going to be here and you're going to suffer. Well, I think a lot of people would turn towards Christianity to try and save their souls, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what Scripture says is going to happen.
Right.
People are still going to turn away from God. So the way I see it is a government needs to have a plan of action. And what better than alien abduction?
It's easy to write it off.
It's easy to write it off. If 5 million people went and disappeared, boom, right now, and everybody was like, what happened? The easiest explanation is, well,
here's the proof of all this.
Those UFOs we've been hiding from you for years, and all the stuff that's coming out now, and you've seen all these little green men, and we've shown little tidbits on the news here and there, and now Trump's released all the information and declassified all this stuff. That's what happened. The aliens came, they took those people for some reason, they're testing them.
Yeah.
And then you can go on your merry way, not seeking the Lord. So
right.
Now you get the 7 years of the tribulation. That's what I think is happening.
It's a perfect cover-up.
Now, as we get into this story, if these little aliens, they're dead bodies, then that kind of discounts what I think, that they're more likely to be fallen angels or demons or whatever you want to call them, disembodied spirits, etc. But those don't die.
The spirit of them doesn't, but
the spirit of them
maybe
doesn't.
Whatever they're inhabiting.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe they can make up their own little body instead of having to assume somebody else's body. I don't know. I don't have the answers, but that's what I think is going on here. I think the world is going to totally buy into this whole UFO alien stuff so that when that day comes, there's already a pre-made explanation as to what's going to happen.
Easy cover.
Easy cover. Now, that being said, maybe I'm crazy too.
Well, join the club.
Yeah. And maybe there's really aliens and maybe they are coming. Maybe they're good. Maybe they're bad. Maybe they're going to wipe us out. There's tons of movies, that have all these different ideologies of like signs, are they here for good? No, they're eating people.
Yeah.
And,
I love that movie.
I love that movie too. I love it when he runs around.
Oh, yeah. And he's screaming at him.
Running around the house. I'm losing my mind. But anyway, yeah, maybe I'm losing my mind, but I just believe that this is of the spiritual realm, not from another planet. But let's get into it. So the Brazil UFO, also known as the Varginha incident, it's also often referred to as Brazil's Roswell. So everybody's familiar with Roswell.
Oh, yeah.
And Area 51 here and all the things that occur in the United States. But maybe not a lot of people in the U.S. know that Brazil had an even bigger incident.
Oh, yeah.
With more witnesses. This incident involved a reported crash, sightings of both the UFO and the unidentified creatures, as well as actual encounters with those creatures by both residents and military personnel. So this occurred in January 1996 in Varginha, Brazil. The UFO that was witnessed was described as a cigar-shaped object traveling at a high rate of speed, and it appeared to be in distress and was then seen crashing into a field. Just thinking about all the different UFO sightings. I've seen UFOs. You've probably seen UFOs. Pretty much everybody's seen some form of UFO or a bright light or an orb or something in their lifetime. But cigar shape seems to be pretty popular.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's either that V-shaped one. The one I saw looked like the Starship Enterprise.
Yeah.
But most of them are these cigar-shaped or just lights. And this one happened to be the cigar shape. So at least 2 creatures were captured, but many people assume that there were other creatures at the crash site that didn't survive. And we're not going to get too in detail on that, but it basically boils down to people thought they saw military vehicles leaving with like body bags.
Which they probably did.
And they did.
Right.
But they're out there at the site, probably picking up little dead creatures, whatever they were. These little creatures were described as being small in stature, about 5 feet tall, bipedal, with large heads that had 3 protrusions, similar to horns, but the depiction that I see is like they would be laying down. They were more like just bumps on the skull that went...
Large ridges almost.
Large ridges, yeah, that would go from like the forehead to the back of the head. And kind of like evenly spaced, where you had the 3 separate ridges.
Yeah. One down the middle and then opposite side.
One on opposite sides, right. So they were brown in color, oily looking skin with visible spots or veins on the surface of their skin. Their hands had 3 fingers. Their feet were V-shaped with 3 toes. They had 2 large red eyes, and they gave off a strong smell of ammonia or sulfur. According to witnesses, at least one appeared to be either scared or suffering from injury and may have even been like pleading for help. That was the posture that it took. That one was the girls that saw it as we get into these sightings. It was like crouched down next to a wall, but as they saw it, and the girls were too scared to do anything.
Oh, of course,
one of them did say later, it almost appeared as though it was like beckoning us for help, but we were too scared, so I wanted to go help it, but we were scared. Didn't know what it was going to do, so we left.
You'd probably kill him.
Yeah.
Suck the life out of him and then rejuvenate itself or something.
Exactly. They described it as being wobbly, unsteady on its feet, and it appeared to be injured. So that's a basic description of the craft and a basic description of these little creatures.
That multiple people saw.
Multiple.
Not just one drunk guy on his porch.
Exactly.
With a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. This was multiple people who gave this description, which is one of the best descriptions I think I've ever heard of.
It's pretty detailed.
An alien.
Yeah, it's a very detailed description. And they all had the same basic description.
Right.
I think some people said it looked black. Some people said brown. But everybody described it. Big red eyes, oily skin, 3 fingers, you know, the V-shaped feet, the little protrusions coming off its head. I mean, everybody said it was the same thing, and they were all in different areas, which that means something too. To me.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if this little thing was downtown and 20 people saw it and they all gave the same description, that's one thing. But when there's multiple of these little guys running around in different parts of the town.
And people who can't talk are giving the same description.
Same description.
Yeah.
So you got some of these little creatures in the forest. Some of them were in an alleyway. And it kind of sounds like they were dispersed all over the place. Even though only 2 were caught, a lot of people are saying, no, there was more than that. They were like running through the forest, and there was one found dead on the roadside. There were several at the crash site. So I think it's a great description.
Yeah.
The location of the incident was the municipality of Varginha, and that is a city with a population of approximately 100,000 people in the landlocked state of Minas Gerais, which is in southeastern Brazil. The state is known for its rich countryside culture, but also has a reputation for being a hotspot of UFO-related incidents.
Which is crazy.
Definitely is crazy. So let's get into like the details of what actually happened out there. The first witness to this, like if you look this up, a lot of things are going to say it occurred on January 20th. But if you dive into it just a little bit more, there were some sightings before, and this guy's is the main sighting to me. They'll always say the 3 girls that discovered it, you know, that's what you always see first. But this guy, he was the first witness that actually saw the crash. So his name's Carlos de Souza. He's a former businessman and a geography teacher whose hobby throughout his adult life was flying ultralight craft. So he's pretty familiar with aircraft. On January 13th, 1996, Carlos de Souza was driving from Sao Paulo to Minas Gerais to meet some friends. And while driving, he saw this cigar-shaped object in the sky moving towards him. It appeared that the craft had significant damage to the rear end, and he's describing it as though it had been like shot down by something. So, you picture a military craft, that some gunnery guy is, blown the tail end off of it and it's smoking and heading down. That's kind of how he's describing this, is that there was a big cloud of white smoke blowing off the back end of this thing, and it was like missing the back end of the craft. And he said it was like clearly out of control.
Which makes you wonder if it's something on the creature's end where they just had a malfunction, something blew.
Yeah.
Or if the military was already on top of it and tried to shoot it down.
Well, my guess is military was on top of it and shot it down. And the only reason I say that, because as I move on here, is when this UFO is flying about 900 to 1,200 feet above the ground, and it's quickly losing altitude. Just before it like crashes down into the highway, the craft makes this sudden 360-degree turn, and it flies away in the opposite direction. But it's not really flying. It's the way it spun around and flew back up. It's kind of like gliding. And as it's gliding, it clearly the engines fail, or whatever type of propulsion it's using fails, and it causes it to crash into the field. So Carlos decided to go investigate the crash site. He found that the UFO had landed near a small white house, and it was leaking an unknown liquid chemical that was burning the grass in about 130-foot diameter around the crash site. The craft was about the size of a standard school bus, and there was debris scattered all around it. The area was filled with the smell of ammonia. So Carlos picks up this piece of debris, and he says it felt like aluminum foil, and he could like crumple it up in his hand so it was pliable, I guess you could say. But when he throws it to the ground, it returns to its original shape. Just moments later, we're talking minutes here.
Yeah.
The Brazilian military arrives.
There it is.
Now, see,
yeah, it's a little too quick.
That's a little too quick to be out in a remote area, out in a field somewhere, and then all of a sudden you got all these military vehicles showing up. I think they shot it down.
Yeah, clearly.
So they order Carlos to leave the area at gunpoint. Military personnel would not allow him to take any of the debris with him. In a later interview, D'Souza meets with some reporters from Fox News and said that because the way the craft was behaving, it was clear to him that it was, in fact, occupied. It wasn't just like a remote-controlled thing.
Like a drone or something, yeah.
Yeah. He said he thought if there's a pilot on board, he could be in deep trouble, so he followed its trajectory towards the crash site, hoping that he'd be able to help. And when D'Souza made it to the crash site, he found the craft largely intact, but having come up against a tree, while remnants of the other half were scattered everywhere. D'Souza says, quote, "The other thing I clearly remember is the foul odor I encountered. It smelled like ammonia with rotten eggs, and it burnt my eyes," end quote. D'Souza said that as he stood among the shattered pieces of the craft, he reached down, picked up a lightweight fragment that resembled aluminum foil, and he says, quote, "I crumbled it in my hand, but when I let it go, it instantly resumed its shape," end quote. He also added that that moment is when these army vehicles all arrived. So literally, we're just talking.
He just gets there.
He just gets
picks
there,
it up, and
picks
that
it
happens.
up, and they show up.
Yeah.
Shot it down.
A little too coincidental.
Yeah, no doubt. He says, quote, "They arrived very promptly, and as soon as they did, a soldier approached me very quickly and hit me in the chest with his rifle. The force of the blow forced me to drop the metal I was holding, and the soldier shouted, quote, 'Leave now,' end quote." So D'Souza is still thinking that there's people on board, whatever that thing was.
Yes.
He looks at this army personnel and he says, "No, there's people in there and they need our help." And with that statement, this military guy points his rifle at his head and says, "I'm not requesting that you leave. This is an order. So leave now or I'll be forced to shoot you." Well, that's what military does when they go out. They will cordon off the area. They tell everybody to get away. And if it's a matter of national security, they will.
Yeah,
They'll shoot you.
Especially in other countries. People don't realize that.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like America where you could just say whatever you want
And I'm not even sure you can do it here in America.
Oh, yeah, but, you get those people on TV that's like, it's my First Amendment right to stand here and film this. And then...
Yeah, I'm a member of the press.
Yeah.
You cannot, exactly.
Until they bust your teeth out with the butt of their rifle.
Or
and then,
pop you and bury you at the scene,
I don't care.
Who knows what's going to happen? But the bottom line is this guy turns and leaves the area immediately, as he should.
Yeah. Nothing to die over.
Yeah. So he says that he was scared. He was confused. He just didn't really know what was going on out there. And I don't think he put two and two together that this was an alien craft that they probably just shot down.
Right. Yeah.
He's just thinking, I need to help whoever's in that.
He's trying to be a good citizen.
Yeah.
And almost gets shot over it.
So the next thing he recalls is that he drove down the road and he stopped at the first gas station he came to compose himself. But literally just a couple minutes later, a dark blue or black vehicle pulls up. Two men get out and approach him. One of the men called to him by name, then proceeded to state his address. They named his wife and mentioned the name of his business. And one of the men said, quote, "You saw nothing at the crash site. You know nothing. Otherwise, you will have problems for the rest of your life," end quote. So D'Souza says, they get in their car, they drive away, and he grabs a notepad to write down their license plate, but there's no plate.
Of course there's not.
Of course there's not. So he concluded his statement by basically stating that he faced 30 years of ridicule and judgment for reporting the incident. People either said he was a nut or that he should have done more or whatever.
It's like we always say. It's why people don't say stuff.
Every single time.
Every time. I'm sick of saying it, and I'm sure people are sick of hearing us say it, but it's every time.
It is every time.
That's why people don't say stuff.
If you report something, you're either a nut, or if it's something that could be considered a national security issue, you might get killed.
Yeah.
In my very first, what was it, episode 8 or something like that, about my UFO experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Where the guy called us to let us know he was going out there, and he's gone, never to be seen again. I mean, I was law enforcement looking for this guy, and he was gone. So he either found something and got offed, or he found something and the aliens took him away, or, well, I don't even know what the option could be. He just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Somehow, some way, he just was. He's gone. Buried in those hills, is what he's at,
and that's what people are afraid of.
Yep.
So, moving on, that basically was the first incident of this Brazil incident. That's the crash. That's a guy who witnessed it. Now, other people did witness this, but he's the first one on scene that got threatened by the Brazilian military.
Yes.
So, moving on, a few days later.
So January 20th of 1996, 5 eyewitnesses' accounts report a strange creature to the fire department. In Brazil, it's typical for the fire department to handle calls of wild or dangerous animals. And the call was made around 8:30 a.m. When the fire department arrived, they located the creature, but it took them 2 hours to eventually capture it with the use of a rope and a pole. The creature kept running and hiding in the dense underbrush, and the terrain was steep and difficult to navigate, making the capture more difficult.
Now, can you imagine being one of these
no.
fire personnel? They get out there, they probably think they've got a escaped zoo animal.
Whatever the norm is over there.
Whatever the norm is that they've been out and captured before.
Coyote or something.
Yeah, and then they come across one of these little cretins.
Yeah. And now you're trying to capture it. Not even knowing what it is. And what noise is it making?
Yeah.
Because, even like a coyote or something, when it's caught in a trap, their squeals sound a little different than they normally do. So is this thing speaking some weird language?
Yeah.
Is it making noises?
And you know what? They don't really say
right.
if this thing ever did make any noises. But the assumption is that these little guys were injured from the crash, making it probably easier for them to catch them.
Exactly.
Because they weren't really mobile, according to everybody. They were like crouched over and looked like they needed help.
Right.
So,
and although 5 feet is small, that's still pretty big.
It's big enough.
Big enough to put up a good fight.
Yeah. I mean, if you're E.T.
You don't know what kind of strength it has. Yeah.
Exactly. Or powers.
Yeah.
You really don't know what you're dealing with at all.
So after they caught the creature, one of the firemen radioed the commanding officer, Major Maciel, who arrived shortly after. And the major arranged for the creature to be transported to the army, of course.
Of course.
Why wouldn't you? The creature was placed in a wooden box, covered with a tarp, and transported to the army sergeant's camp in Tres Caracos. It's just every bit of it's a cover-up. And not saying the fire department had anything to do with it. They're probably like,
well, I'm
they
sure
were probably contacted.
They were contacted. I can only imagine that when the fire department captured this thing and saw what they had, they're not just going to take it to the zoo.
Yeah.
They're going to turn it over to the military.
Vet. Yeah. On January 20th at 2 p.m., a jogger who had previously served in the military observed several soldiers in the Santana district. The jogger noticed the soldiers dressed in camouflage, carrying light rifles and sidearms, moving near a railroad line. And this was the same location that the fire department captured the first creature. The soldiers entered a large pasture near a wooded area, carrying 2 canvas-like bags. The jogger heard metallic gunshots, suggesting a confrontation. He saw the soldiers struggling up an embankment with the bags, one of which appeared to have movement inside, indicating something alive was in it.
Okay, so we have at least one capture.
Yep.
They got 2 bags, so they're probably after 2.
Yes.
We already have the fire department caught one. So
here's the thing too. How did they know how many bags to bring? I'm getting, obviously there's stuff that we don't know, like when they searched the cabin of the craft or whatever, maybe there was something indicating how many things were in it, but
yeah, there's no way to know.
Yeah.
And they've covered everything to the point that you'll never know.
Yep, exactly. On January 20th at about 3:30 p.m., 3 young women, sisters Lilian and Valkyria Silva, whose ages were 16 and 14, and their friend Katia Xavier, age was 22, were walking down a small abandoned piece of land in the suburbs of the city when they noticed a strange creature crouching in front of a graffitied wall about 8 feet away from them.
Okay, so now we're already at potentially the 4th one.
Potentially the 4th, yep.
Potentially 4. 2, because 1 he saw in a bag, kicking around in the bag, even though he didn't see what it was, the jogger.
Right.
The fire department's already caught one. They had another bag, so they may have been in pursuit of a 3rd.
So this could be 3 or 4.
This could be 3 or 4.
Depending on if they didn't get 2 when they were over there.
Right.
Yep. The girls described it as being completely hairless, 5 feet tall, and having large red eyes, without pupils, oily black or brown skin, V-shaped feet, a slit for a mouth, and 3 horns, kind of like you were describing earlier, on its head. It seemed to be wobbly or unsteady, as if it was hurt or sick.
Yeah.
Which clearly it's injured from the crash.
Right.
I mean, I guess it could be sick too, but clearly it's injured from the crash. The sight of the creature obviously frightened them so much that they ran out of the alley, believing they had seen, quote, the devil, end quote. Which they probably did, because it's probably a demon.
It probably is.
Yeah.
And it probably did have the look of some demonic spiritual force.
Which is why that sulfur smells just emitting off of it.
From hell.
It's straight from the bowels. They went to Lilianne and Valkyria's house to talk to their mom, Louisa, about what they had seen. Now, Louisa initially did not believe them, but then she drove back to the location and found that the creature had left a footprint. The footprint had 3 digits, and the area smelled like ammonia or sulfur. The witnesses claimed they couldn't get rid of the smell from their noses for several days.
Yeah. Now, trying to look into how did this thing leave a footprint, I read a couple of things. I mean, you could jump to the conclusion that it was in dirt or on gravel or whatnot.
Yep.
I did see one thing said that it may have left that footprint in grass, but I could get no confirmation on how they got the footprint. There's no photos of the footprint to my knowledge. The military covered it all up
Exactly,
anyway.
yeah.
And when you go on here, you'll see that that they covered up whatever was at the scene because of what happens next.
Absolutely. Louisa said she received a visit from 4 men dressed in black who offered her money if they left the area, and went on television with the girls and said they saw an animal or a sick person rather than the creature they described.
Yeah, so you already have, assumably, governmental officials.
Right.
Either doing witness intimidation. It could be they were threatening. Some reports it's they offered money to people. Sometimes it was just letting you know, we know where you live. We know,
Yeah.
you know,
Which, I mean, that's just
your entire
threatening.
family. That's
Yeah.
a massive threat. But everybody that witnessed this incident got a little visit and were told by either military personnel or men in black,
Right.
kind of thing. And they were told to never talk about it again or change your story and say this is what you saw. Well, that in and of itself is the cover up. It doesn't matter if it's a demon, an alien, if it's our own people wearing some kind of a weird space suit,
Yeah,
you know,
right, yeah.
in a craft that's top secret. It doesn't matter what it is. The government was still trying or attempting their best to cover everything up and either intimidate, threaten, or pay off anybody that had anything to do with it. So that tells you right there's something up.
Yeah. It's more than, we were testing some military craft and we want it to stay a secret. It's more than that.
It's insane is what it is.
After the girls related the incident to family and friends, rumors began appearing throughout the city regarding UFO sightings and alien creatures being abducted by the military. 2 days later, another similar creature was allegedly found lying along a road. So
now you're up to 4.
now you're up to the 4
or 5.
or 5.
Because we don't know about the
But-
one empty body
Right.
bag.
At least 4, though.
Yeah.
3 military trucks were supposedly sent to retrieve it. Another alien of the same species was reportedly seen at the local zoo by its janitor. In the following months, 3 animals mysteriously died.
So 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Or that could be one. That could still actually be, if you think about it. He could have wandered through the zoo, infected some animals or, whatever
Yeah,
the case. And continued on and dropped dead on the side of the road. And he was the 4th one to get picked up or the 5th one to get picked up or whatever. I mean, we're jumping to conclusion that there were more than what they're saying. But when you read these things chronologically speaking, it sounds to me like you're somewhere between 4 and 6 of these creatures out there.
And again, you're talking about multiple people in different areas who don't know what the other person's account is,
Right.
giving the same description of these creatures.
Exactly. So getting into a little more detail on the capture of these guys.
Yeah.
So we know that 2, for certain,
For certain, yep,
have been captured
alive.
alive. There could be another one in a body bag.
Yep.
Because that wasn't the fire department's. And this is going to be a different one.
Yeah.
So at least 2 creatures are captured. It's believed by many that clearly there were more live creatures that were possibly captured and potentially dead creatures at the crash site that may have been recovered that never even made it out of the ship.
Yeah.
Now, again, that's a jump. People are just, assuming that there were more than the ones that were running around. But I think it was because witnesses said that they were out there with body bags at the crash site.
Exactly.
So, loading stuff up and getting out of there. Of course, they cordoned off the whole area, wouldn't let anybody in there. So people couldn't really see everything that was going on. The bird's eye view was D'Souza,
Yeah.
but he got popped in the chest and threatened with his life.
Yeah, so-
was sent on his way.
Yeah, he left rightfully so.
So he didn't get to see if anybody else was in the craft. So one was known to be captured in the morning and the second one in the afternoon on
Yep.
the 20th. The first creature captured by the fire department, which you discussed already, and the second creature was captured by military police near the intersection where the 3 girls had seen the creature. So Brazilian Corporal Eric Lopez and military police officer Marco Eli Chariz, they were driving on a road near the crash site when one of the creatures ran across the path of their vehicle. That would be freaky, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, imagine you get a call of a downed UFO, you're on your way out there, and there's creatures running around.
And you're probably just cruising along, laughing with your buddy about
Thinking,
it, like UFO,
it was a
sipping
weather
coffee.
balloon.
Yeah.
It's another Roswell incident. It's
Yeah.
just a weather balloon down. And no, it's not a weather balloon. You got creatures running around. That would be kind of fun
It would be kind of fun.
and terrifying at the same time.
Especially because, I guess you're hopeful and thinking that, not only are they partners, but they're friends. Because, you could get partnered with someone you don't like. But
Yeah.
imagine you're sitting there essentially with your buddy working and you get to experience that.
Yeah.
Because if you're by yourself, that kind of sucks. Because now You're going to be the office nut.
You're going to be the nut.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just like poor D'Souza was
Yeah, exactly.
cast aside by everybody he knew for 30 years. So Marco, obviously riding shotgun, he jumps out of the vehicle and gives chase. Well, I'm assuming that this little creature was injured as well. But then again, maybe they're not. Maybe they're slow.
Maybe they run our speed.
Yeah, who knows? But Marco chases him down and grabs him with his bare hands, pulls him into the vehicle, and Lopez just takes off. And he drives him to Varginha's regional hospital, where they turn this creature over to Army authorities. So now the little creature is subdued. It's probably, strapped down to a cot or something, carried into the hospital. And now they've got this one in the hospital. The other one, I don't know. I think the other one was at a military base. I'm not positive. But shortly after this incident, Marco falls ill and he ends up dying due to a mysterious infection. Marco developed this massive infection. I think it was started up under his arm, and it was believed to have been caused by the creature. So doctors were never able to actually figure out what the problem was. He did die from sepsis. So he ended up with blood poisoning due to infection. But his body was covered in a greasy substance, and he developed this infection from which he never recovered. According to his sister, she was not even allowed to talk about Marco's death. So she'd been contacted already.
Oh, yeah.
Keep your mouth shut. His autopsy showed that he had a granular toxin, and his cause of death was inconclusive, other than septic.
Right.
Marco's wife, Valeria, said that she could not get answers about her husband's death, and when she asked for the reports, the hospital demanded money for them, and then when she finally did get the reports, there were several pages missing.
Of course there was.
So even the autopsy was a cover-up. Now, the military jumps in here at this point and demands that Marco's body be buried immediately. So I don't know, so I'm not going to jump and say they didn't even get a funeral or anything. They probably had a funeral, but it was a timely burial. It wasn't one where, they're going to wait for a week, notify the family members, have a wake, whatever traditional thing they're going to do. The military made them bury him right now. So that's a cover-up.
Exactly.
As well.
It has to be.
So the medical examiner that actually performed the autopsy on Marco said that it was considered unusual for a young, healthy soldier to die of what seemed to just be an abscess under his arm. Although observed and treated by other doctors, the soldier died of what was described as a highly virulent, drug-resistant bacterium. The medical examiner said samples were sent to a pathologist. Now, this pathologist, his name was Dr. Shuam Jamini. He analyzed the tissue samples that were taken from Marco, and without knowing anything about this case, he had never been told that it was an alien encounter or whatever. He had no knowledge of what was going on. He concludes that the bacterium's aggressiveness suggested extraterrestrial origin.
No, come on.
He was not aware of anything like that on Earth.
Well, I'm sure they purposely didn't tell him because...
Well, then they'd have to kill him.
They'd have to kill him or, threaten him or bribe him or whatever.
Yeah. So he says that he performed over 50,000 autopsies and conducted more than 1 million microscopic analyses during his career, and this one baffled him. He just did not know what it was. So he literally says that we need to exhume that soldier's body so that more testing could be done to test his hypothesis that the bacterium is of extraterrestrial nature. But as of today, years later, obviously, Marco's body has never been exhumed for further testing, despite the ongoing effort to do so. So the government is not allowing it, and they're still today, as of January of 2026, they're trying to get him exhumed so they can do testing on that to see, is this a disease that's of this earth, or is this something that little alien caused? And they won't let him.
Still won't do it.
Yeah. Cover up.
It has to be.
has to be.
I mean,
there is no doubt.
it's like
a
the perfect
cover-up.
movie. It's such a good cover up.
Yes. And I'm sure they've probably made
They probably have.
movies. But ironically, now this Corporal Eric Lopez, the driver of the car, and his little buddy had died from touching this thing. He's the last known member of that squad that is alive. He handled the alien mission, and he was actually the one in charge of Marco Cherise. But when questioned by people about it, he pulled his gun out, pointed it at everybody on scene, and told them, "I don't know anything." He just wants to be left alone. Well,
because he knows he's going to get popped
he
if he
knows
doesn't.
he's going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give it up, and that's going to be the end of you.
Yeah.
So this one is a big cover-up, period.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
And we're going to get into a little bit more. A few more sightings, a few more witnesses, what people thought, what people saw, as if this wasn't enough to know that this was either an alien or some unknown entity.
Not human. It's not human.
Non-human in nature that the government got,
Yeah.
ran tests on or whatever they did, and don't want us to know about it.
I mean, you don't just pull a gun on people because you don't want to do an interview
Right.
about the subject.
Yeah.
He's terrified.
And anybody that has any knowledge of it at all has been threatened to the point where they don't even want any part of it anymore.
Yeah, because you could speculate all you want further into it if you really wanted to get, conspiracy with it and think, how was he the last member alive? Did other people say they were going to talk about it, so they offed him?
Yeah.
Is it just a coincidence and everybody from that squad just happened to pass away?
Yeah, maybe they were all old.
Yeah.
And he was the younger one.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. And who knows if that's even true? That's just, when you're kind of diving
Sure.
into the details of this, that's what you come up with. But there could be other surviving military people.
Maybe their identification is classified.
Maybe more people died from actually having contact with these things
Yeah.
that they didn't fess up to. So who knows?
It makes you wonder, though, if these things are still alive.
I think that's something that we're never going to know.
Oh, yeah.
But that goes back to what we were saying at the very beginning. If they were demonic in nature, spiritual in nature, if they're some entity other than just from another planet kind of thing, then my assumption would be they're still alive.
Yeah. Maybe not that little body that they were in. That could have been dead and
that could have
crumbled up. But
a disembodied spirit, a fallen angel, whatever you want to call them, I would say it would still be alive, maybe moved on to some other form or taken another entity's
right.
shape. And if they are extraterrestrial, like if it is an ET thing, then they could be dead. But remember, even in the little story of ET, his little heart starts pounding again, and the little boy's excited and jumps on his bike and gets him to his spaceship, and he goes home.
Yep.
After we thought it was dead.
Right.
So, and I know that's just a movie, that's just fun. But who knows what we're dealing with here?
Yeah.
Because you don't get to know.
No. And it kind of
if there
angers
was-
me.
If there was any transparency in government whatsoever when it comes to these kinds of things, if they just let people know, yes, this was an alien. Yes, the poor little thing died. This is what it told us. Why do they always think that there's going to be such a mass panic or something that we can't handle the truth? That drives me nuts.
Well, people are idiots, unfortunately.
There are a lot of morons.
The toilet paper morons
Yes.
from the COVID days.
Right. Yeah, they're still wearing masks.
Yeah. Yeah. By themselves in their car.
Yeah. But I just wish they'd be a little more upfront.
Right.
Stop lying and saying it's a weather balloon when everybody saw it clearly wasn't a weather balloon.
Exactly.
Don't say that you don't have a body when 400 people saw you wheeling it in on a gurney into a hospital and 4 doctors have testified to the fact that they worked on an alien. Stop lying to us and just say what it is.
Exactly.
And if it causes worldwide panic and we all kill each other, well, maybe that's what the end of the world is.
It's about time.
Yeah, take up arms and, I don't know. It's,
I'm sure I could, if I really thought about it, I'm sure there'd be more. But I understand when it's like, yeah, well, we have this new weapon we're testing to defend our nation. So we don't want to tell you about it because we don't want the enemy to find out about it.
And I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. I know some people would go, oh, they shouldn't be hiding that either. We should know everything that's happening. But
no,
there are some things that I don't want the enemy to know.
We should have national secrets, but aliens
But
are not
aliens
one
are
of them.
not. Yeah, that's not going to help protect us from Russia
Right.
having an alien.
Exactly.
Or will it?
So getting into like media inquiry and stuff, I'm really not going to jump into this too much. I just wanted to state that although the media widely reported the incident and attempted to interview people that were involved with it, journalists did report that there were significant immediate efforts by military to suppress, restrict, and intimidate everybody involved in covering that story in any way, shape, or form. They were not allowed to go anywhere near the crash site. They were cordoned off and not allowed to get anywhere near anything that they could see. And in fact, one of the reporters that went to the hospital and saw the commotion of doctors, saw people running through the woods, yelling, surround it, and it's smooth, and all these different things that these reporters heard that they were trying to report, they were actually threatened by military and were told that if you keep asking questions or if you continue to interfere, you're going to be arrested. This is like an international story.
Yeah.
Any journalist in his right mind would love to be first on scene at something like that.
Oh, yeah.
But they were told, you get anywhere near this, and if you ask us any questions, you're going to jail. So clearly they didn't.
Right.
So this whole thing was technically completely suppressed. And there's a lot more regarding media, but we're getting short on time. So let's just say that they were so intimidated, they could not report the details at the time. Let's move into other witnesses that I believe were significant witnesses to what happened. They may not have actually seen the crash, seen the bodies, but these are things that corroborate military cover-up.
Yeah.
So you want to do that?
Yeah. So a man whose identity was not given said he was the Brazilian soldier who participated in transporting what he called an extraterrestrial. He described seeing a being in the hospital, which he took to another location where different soldiers took over. He said he heard that Americans had the creature and had taken it to an unknown location. So there you go. Now we're jumping in the mix.
Yeah. Now, this next one, I thought this is not really a part of this incident. I only threw it in here because I think it's relatively important to establish that there's something going on in Brazil. This Dr. Italo Venturelli, he's a physician. He's a neurologist, basically. And they're in Brazil. And he said that he had suffered a heart attack and he didn't want to die and not let people know what he has seen. So he's one of those deathbed confession people, but then he ended up surviving. So he comes out and he says that he was working in a hospital when a colleague pulled him into a room and showed him a video of what appeared to be a child with a severe case of hydrocephalus. So basically one of our big-headed guys that we did
what were their names?
The episode.
I can't remember their names now. I'm drawing a blank.
Melonheads.
The Melonheads, yes.
Yeah, the Melonhead episode where people said, no, they were just kids with hydrocephalus. So he thought that's what he was dealing with, this little kid, that had just bulbous head. But he then directed Venturelli to a bed where the creature actually was lying, not just a video of it. And he said he immediately knew there was no way that thing was human. He witnessed an alien at a hospital. So he describes the creature as looking like a 7-year-old with a teardrop-shaped cranium and a teardrop-shaped lilac eyes. He described the being with white skin and a hand with 3 fingers and an opposing thumb. He had no nipples on his chest, and he had a very small mouth. He said that when he was looking at him, he got the sense that this little creature was thankful for the care that he was receiving, but he just wanted to go home. So E.T., go home.
Yep.
That's exactly what I pictured. Remember, it had white skin and
exactly.
long fingers and the opposing thumb and all that. So maybe he just had a dream about E.T. I don't know. The only reason I thought this was significant is because you have a neurologist, a longtime neurologist, who's, dedicated his life to the medical profession. He's probably a credible man, and he's claiming that they have had aliens in their hospital, in their possession before this incident even happened.
Well, that's why he said it on his deathbed.
That's why.
Because he didn't want to discredit his career.
Right. Exactly.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on.
Retired Air Force Colonel Fred Clausen said in January of 1996, a U.S. cargo plane secretly took off and flew into Brazil without authorization from Brazilian authorities, where it loaded, quote, unusual cargo, end quote, and then departed to an unknown location.
Now, that's not the norm.
Yeah.
There's no military operation that's just nobody gets to know about it.
Exactly.
I mean, that's not 100% accurate.
Right.
But I mean,
I get what you're saying.
These people would know.
Yes.
You're flying into international airspace. You're landing in another country to pick up an alien. Somebody would know.
Somebody would know.
Yeah.
He detailed a potential paper trail such a mission could have left behind and estimated that about 30 to 40 Americans would have knowledge of the mission. Clausen pleaded with them to come forward with the information that they have.
And clearly they did not.
Clearly they did not.
Nobody came forward. You're going to get killed.
You're going to get, yeah.
If you're a part of a top secret mission with aliens and you divulge that to somebody, they're either going to write you off as a nut or they're going to be a single vehicle accident.
And that's what it's going to be. You're going to be one of those guys.
You're going to be toast.
The creature, whatever it was whisked away, transferred between a series of locations, and finally was handed over to representatives of the U.S. government, never to be seen again, of course.
Yeah.
And
the Pentagon also denies the existence of any UFO program and maintains there's no evidence that any UAPs are connected to extraterrestrial life.
Of course.
I don't know why we maintain that. Of course, now you got Trump coming out with this Transparency Act that we're going to declassify all UFO information, but it'll be all redacted.
It'll be, yep.
None of it's going to make any sense to us.
It's like the Epstein files stuff.
Yeah, just hand me a piece of paper with a bunch of black ink on it, that reads nothing. That's exactly what's going to happen. So another witness, a radiologist, claims to have taken x-rays of the creature. Now, this guy was a Brazilian radiologist, and the ESA brought that body bag in and told him, take x-rays, but you're not allowed to look in the bag or look at the x-rays. So he's just basically doing an x-ray of the bag and then has to just hand over the film to them. But he says after they took the creature back, the smell lingered. So he could smell that ammonia sulfur thing that everybody else said.
Which is exactly what they said for days.
Yeah, for days. And he disinfected the area and could not get rid of the smell. What does that?
Yeah.
A demon.
A demon, yeah.
Oh.
Because their stench is not of this world.
That's
That's why you can't disinfect it. An anonymous source said he drove from regional Varginha to Humanitas, Varginha, then to the ESA Army base in Tres Caracos, and finally to Espex Campañas with the creature. He believed that the creature was given to the U.S. government. So he was bouncing all over the place with this thing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure everybody was involved. Different governments were involved, and it was all secrecy. So an air traffic controller, Jose Fernandez, he says the United States Air Force landed at that Espex Campinas base. 2 U.S. soldiers then take off by helicopter to Varginha, and then they returned to Campinas and left without saying anything. So again, no flight logs, no information. This is an air traffic control guy. He has to know this stuff.
Exactly.
Right? But he says, no, this was all unauthorized flights coming in, going out. Why would they be doing that? Cover up.
There's nothing else to it.
It's as simple as that.
It's not a vacation. You're not just flying in to see some sights and then fly out real quick.
Exactly.
More rumors began to spread through the area, with some people claiming to have observed UFOs in the days prior. Other claims were made of additional unidentified creatures being collected and observed at a hospital, military, police, government trucks, and personnel being active in the area, and unidentified animal, quote, prowling, end quote, a local forest, and unexplained animal deaths occurring in the local zoo. So a lot of ongoings, essentially.
Yeah, people started kind of losing their minds over it, saying that these little things are running everywhere and the animals. And that kind of makes sense, because if Marco touches this creature and dies a week later from some aggressive bacterial thing, if it was hiding out in a zoo, jumping from, cage to cage, leaving behind this greasy deposit and stuff, then what would stop the animals from dying from the same bacterial stuff?
Exactly.
So, it kind of it lends a little credibility towards the fact that Marcos did die from touching this creature. And maybe these animals died from exposure to this little creature. But nay, because the explanation is as such. An official inquiry that was led by the Brazilian military concluded in 2010. So several years later, right, they finally came up with the answer to all of this. Of course they did. And thank God they did, because
I was worried.
This just sheds light on what really happened out there. Those 3 young girls that encountered this creature, well, it was just a mentally unstable man.
Yep.
His name was Luis Antonio de Paula, and he was known locally as Mudinho. And the commander of the 24th Police Battalion military presented photographs of Mudinho, who had some mental disabilities and who had some physical characteristics that matched the description of the creature. He said that Mudinho probably was dirty and wet due to heavy rains, and he was seen crouching by a wall and was mistaken by these 3 girls as a space creature.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because he has horns on his head,
right?
3 fingers, V-shaped toes, big red bulbous eyes with no pupils, oily, greasy, brown skin. Well, he might have had that.
Yeah, and
I'll give him that.
And what was it? They were 8 feet away?
They're 8 feet
So that's a great
away.
distance to, especially if it's raining a little bit.
To completely mistake this transient mental patient to a space creature.
Oh, gosh.
But anyway, the head of the official inquiry also reported that the military trucks and personnel were performing routine duties on the night they were observed, and the presence of the firefighters, the parking of all the Army trucks in the vicinity of the concessionaire where their periodic maintenance would be carried out, and the departure of all those ESA vehicles were incorrectly interpreted as the capture and transport of the alleged creature.
Yeah.
There it is.
So Carlos was just part of a training exercise.
Carlos had no idea. He just stumbled onto a military training exercise where they were bringing vehicles in for routine maintenance.
Yeah.
And the fire department shows up, basically a few days later, and they're just there on a training mission as well.
And the soldier who jabbed him in the chest, they say train like you fight. So he just took his training seriously.
He took it very seriously.
By striking and assaulting a citizen. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then the poor military police officer that died from bacterial infection probably just never happened.
It's probably made up.
Yeah. Even though he was buried, and the medical profession wants to exhume his body, and they're refusing to allow that to happen. This was all just coincidence.
Yep.
So if anybody's worried that there are extraterrestrials, don't worry about it.
No, it's just mentally unstable people.
Mentally unstable transient that was crouched by a graffitied wall.
In the rain.
In the rain. Which I might add, the women said there was no rain.
Yeah.
So that was another lie.
Of course.
Yeah. So lastly, the military concluded that the small humanoids that were seen by hospital staff and witnesses, they were just people suffering from dwarfism, and the large iron boxes that had been seen dropped by the military actually just contained medical equipment.
Pretty standard stuff.
So it must have been a routine training mission that had something to do with medical transport for dwarfs.
Yes. To aid and assist mentally unstable transient people.
Yes.
It's all part of it.
And then the U.S. government, of course, flying into Brazil with a cargo plane.
Joint operations, joint training.
Joint operation, because you never know when dwarfs may attack. And you got to
be ready for anything.
You got to be ready for anything. And you got to have your fire on scene, too, in the event that wild or dangerous animals might be there at the training mission as well.
It's almost, I would say it's actually worse than the whole escaped circus with the elephant.
Yeah.
It's just a slap in the face.
This is one of the worst cover-ups I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I mean, Roswell, at least, I'm never going to buy into the weather balloon thing because I've seen the pictures and stuff. But at least it's plausible that a weather balloon could have crashed. Somebody mistook it for an alien ship. The plausibility there is low because I think most people know what a balloon looks like.
Right.
But at least there's some chance
Right.
that it could have been something other than alien. But this one, a cigar-shaped thing with the back end blown off, erratically flying through the air, crashing into the ground with little creatures running all over the place.
Seen and described by multiple people.
Seen and described by multiple people. People died because of touching them. Medical examiners, pathologists, testifying to the fact that they actually had something there of potential extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
This is the worst cover-up.
It's the worst
in history.
And what makes it even worse is you just have to take it on the chin because they're not going to allow anything else. Nope.
And you're never going to, because 1996 to present and nothing's come out, it's never going to.
Right.
They're never going to release everything. Everything's going to be redacted. You know, these people don't even get to know why their husband and brother died.
Yeah.
Because everything was redacted and or missing from the reports.
You can't exhume his body either to see
and you
what
can't
caused
take it
his
out.
death.
Yeah. So to me, it's ridiculous. What it is, I don't know. I can't make that jump.
Same.
It's either spiritual, demonic stuff, or it's people from another planet. Whichever one you want to believe, but it happened.
Yes.
There's no doubt in my mind it happened. This is just a terrible, terrible cover up. So getting into like the films, documentaries, popularity of this incident, there's not a whole lot. So there's a show called Alien Encounter, episode 6 of their first season of Beyond the Truth. Had a little tidbit on this. Alien Castaways, episode 7 of the first season. That was in 2012. National Geographic's channel's Chasing UFO series. Do you remember that show? Chasing UFOs? They had a little expose on this. But the biggest one is this director, James Fox, and he did a documentary in 2022 called Moment of Contact. If you're interested in this particular UFO sighting, that's the one to look at.
I'm going to have to watch that one.
Moment of Contact. He probably dives into it way further than we even do here. And I think that you could walk away from that one with a lot of information on this incident. And no doubt in my mind, you'd be walking away from this going, those military personnel and the cover up and our government getting involved with it is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Because it happened. Something definitely happened out there. But that's pretty much all I have on the Brazilian UFO incident.
Yeah.
Is there anything, do you think, that we've left out that
I've always heard
really
people
need to
say
hit
that
home?
there was video of some of it, and I've never been able to find any video. So I don't know what people are talking about.
Yeah.
Did you see any video?
I have not seen any video.
I've heard people make claims about there being video on it, and every time I search for it, I never find anything. So if somebody out there has like a link to the video or has seen it or whatever,
so we
let us know, because I searched just for the video for I think over an hour and a half, and I couldn't find anything. I went through Google, Reddit, YouTube, Instagram. I was searching everywhere. Couldn't find it.
Yeah. There's a lot of information out there on this, probably no more than what we did. You could go into a little more detail on specific things. We kind of summarized the incident. But there is a ton of information out there. So if you are interested in this particular UFO sighting, this is the one to dive into, because this one is clearly the biggest cover-up that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on. If you'll join us 2 weeks from now, it turns out that New Jersey doesn't have just the New Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
They got another little sinister guy, although he's never hurt anybody. And there's only been a couple of sightings on him, but it sounds like a fun one to me. You know how much we love to go fishing.
Oh, yeah.
And the two people that saw this thing, they were out fishing. So I trust them right off the bat.
100%. Fishermen would never lie.
Yeah. Our next episode is on the Mantis Man.
Yeah.
This is a 6'7" to 7 foot tall praying mantis, bipedal praying mantis that walks around. He hasn't hurt anybody yet, but people see him.
Imagine being knee deep in the water in the middle of the river and seeing that guy on the banks.
Yeah. That'd be a big fish that could try and get him as bait.
I'd be freaked out.
We hope you join us 2 weeks from now and learn a little bit about Mantis Man.
Yeah.
And until then.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the show and you want to help us out, then go ahead and give us a follow, leave us a review. And don't forget to turn on the automatic download button so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And as always, if you've had any experiences, stories, thoughts, comments, or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email to cryptidfanatic@gmail.com. Let us know if you'd like to be on the show or just have your story featured during one of our episodes.